Mustache Tales.
Yeah!
Hello, it's J. Chandrasekhar here with my good buddy Hayes MacArthur on a new episode of Mustache Tales. And our guest today is the great, comedic, hilarious, beautiful actress from Animal Control, Grace Palmer. Hi, Grace.
Oh, that's so nice. Do you guys feel like fraudsters? Because neither of you have mustaches.
Here's the thing, Grace. I've had a mustache. He's had a mustache. We'll have mustaches again. And
I just feel like it's like a bold move to name your podcast after something that you don't currently have.
Well, we're trying to surf off the coolness of mustaches without having to deal with the discomfort of having a sweaty, caterpillar on your lip all the time.
Yeah,
well,
that really
Jay,
resonates
you having
with
a mustache, it stops traffic when you have a mustache, Jay. I remember, people come up to you so much more when you have a mustache, don't they?
Yeah, like when a criminal, somebody robs a bank and they go down to Mexico, they usually grow a beard, right? Or they grow a mustache so they're not recognizable. If I have a mustache, it's nonstop pictures. And so I shave my mustache to look unrecognizable. So if
That's what I do as well.
Yeah.
Because it's been a big problem.
Mustache?
People asking me. Because everyone wants photos of me and my mustache when I'm in Mexico. So it's a whole thing. Sorry.
That's right.
Tell your tale.
Okay, I'll tell my tale. So, I am a golf addict. Hello, my name is Jay, and I'm a golf addict. And the more you play golf, the more likely it is that you're going to get hit by a golf ball. And I, this past weekend, was in Florida at a place called Stream Song, which is like one of these golf resorts. It's like a mecca. It's just 3 courses, incredible. It's, restaurants and putting greens, and it was fantastic. Wasn't a woman in sight, but regardless. So, I went to a bar with, there were 100 guys in there, and there was literally no women. It was whatever. I know women like golf, so do I. So I'm out there, and I'm on a hole, and my partner and I are fighting these 2 other guys trying to win this hole. My partner's like off in the junk and then in the sand trap. He's out of the hole. There's no chance he's winning this hole, and he's pissed off and he's steamed up. And we're all 6 of us are standing in front of him. He should have picked up the ball and walked out. But he just fucking fires this ball, sculls it, hits it right on the edge of his wedge, and it goes screaming at 100 miles an hour at us. I leap in the air, and it hits me right in the ankle, right? But it was like this thunk, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I did not say "ouch." I didn't go "ah." I just stood there and I'm like, I'm good, let's go. And I got so lucky because it hit me in a muscle called the talus. And I'll show you my foot here. The talus. Hold on.
Oh.
I can't get it up there. Anyway, it's right. It's the part
Tarantino film.
The tibia is protected by this piece of muscle called the talus. It connects basically to what do you call them? What do you call those bones on the side of your feet? Heel, sheep? No, not heel.
Ankle bones.
Ankle bones. God damn it! God, I'm slowing down. So the talus connects the 2 ankle bones and protects the tibia, and that thing hit me, boom, right in that thing, ricocheted off. I wasn't limping. It didn't swell up. I actually won that hole. And, it was a miracle. Like if I hadn't jumped, it would have hit my tibia and just shattered. It would have pulverized. It was a miracle. And while I'm talking about it, when I was 13, I was playing golf.
Oh, God.
And a guy hit a 3-iron and it skipped off the ground and hit me right here in the head. And what you're supposed to do is either fight the guy or fire his ball off into the woods. And I'm 13. He's like 45. I just fired that fucking ball off into the woods. And my head kind of ballooned up there. I finished the round.
It's dangerous, dude. It happens more than you think. People get hit by golf balls. It's also one of the most hilarious things in the world to witness.
Yeah.
Because it's so painful. My friend got hit, like an errant golf ball hit him in the head when we were standing on a green. He was lining up a putt, and he just went down to his knees, fell forward. We all start laughing. He gets up and tries to play it off, and then he falls down again. But he was concussed and, could have died or lost an eye.
Oh, yeah, you can die. You can die from that.
Have you been playing since you were 13?
I've been playing since I was 13. That's right.
I knew you were into golf. I didn't realize that you were like a child star.
Yeah, I was a child star. Like you and the javelin, Grace.
How did you know about me? Did I tell you about the javelin?
No, but I know you're a javelin thrower, aren't you? You know, Grace, this is a
weirdly,
real podcast with real research. This is not just some.
Well,
this is a real deal.
That is super niche, and I can never remember who I told that, but I did set a school record for javelin, and I think it still stands.
Could you? Well, okay. For those who don't know, I've directed Grace on Animal Control, the hit Fox television show, a number of times. When people say, "What's Animal Control about it?" I'm like, "Are you slow? I mean, do you not know? I mean, it's called animal. It's like when a raccoon gets loose in your basement, you call these guys. But these guys are cracking jokes, and they're going to get the raccoon, right? But something's going to happen. Something crazy is going to happen. But there's lots of jokes.
It's not a profession that exists in New Zealand, I don't think. So animal control officer is not something that I had really heard of before the show. We don't do that here.
What do you do when you get a raccoon in your basement?
We don't have raccoons.
Oh, right. You know what else?
We don't have.
You don't have any predator animals on New Zealand.
Nothing. We don't have snakes, mountain lions, bears. We don't have anything that could kill you. There's literally nothing that could kill you. Maybe a boar, like a big pig. But if you fell asleep in the middle of the woods or in the middle of like the bush, the only thing that could maybe kill you is the cold.
And it can't be that cold there either, right? I mean, it gets a little cold, right? Does it snow?
Not where I am. It doesn't get that cold. It's pretty not really. It's kind of like it's bizarre. I tell people that all the time, but we don't have like raccoons. So particularly working with these animals. So on one of my first weeks, Jay was in season 1, I had to work with an iguana. I don't like iguanas. I didn't really know much about iguanas, but I knew as soon as I fucking saw it that I was like, I don't like iguanas. And I had to hold it.
It's more than don't like, Grace. You're petrified. Petrified.
That's fucking scary. And I went up to Jay and I was like, I don't really like iguanas. And he's like, well, it's an animal show, so... And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to be holding the iguana. And he was really, really lovely, but it was so scary having this thing. I was sweating profusely. He had to set up the entire shot and then put the iguana on me last minute. But obviously they were fucking rolling, so you can see me. There's just all this footage somewhere, and I'm so scared that it's going to get out. It's just like me going, okay, yeah, check it on. And then me screaming and kind of going, no, and everyone like it was so daunting. But I think I've gotten better. But when I say this, when I go on the show, like, and I get a bit scared, it's because I've never met or seen these things before in my life. Like, I don't know how.
Right. I see.
I don't know how to respond to a lot of them.
It's like seeing an alien. You think, who knows what it's going to do?
A little bit. Like raccoons, their hands. I didn't realize raccoons had such like
nimble hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cast is about animal control. Just let people know who's on the cast because it's completely stacked with. You guys must crack up all the time, especially with animals. Sitting around telling jokes on a show like with Joel McHale. The whole thing is designed to have hijinks. It's an Office Place show, right? But you guys are in charge of collecting animals.
Who are the people in the cast, Grace?
I gotta remember people's last names. Joel McHale, Ravi Patel, Michael Rowland, and Vala Laval. And also we've had like incredible guest cast. So we've had like Ken Jeong came on this season, Sarah Chalk, Thomas Lennon, like really very, very funny people. So you're right. I do laugh out loud all day, every day. But it pisses me off because I could never make Joel Corpse. Like Joel doesn't laugh at other people as much as like we laugh at him. Have you seen Joel Corpse? He says he doesn't. He said he doesn't.
When you say corpse, what does that mean?
Ah, what do you guys call it? Crack, like break.
Oh, crack?
Yeah, crack
up.
break.
Oh, okay. Corpse.
We call it corpse.
I like corpse better.
Yeah. So he doesn't. He would never like laugh in the middle of a take. He's can't be broken.
So did you join that? You stepped in there with that awesome cast from New Zealand. Had you been in the States already working? Because you had Shortland Street, which was a show on the air in New Zealand for a couple of years. And did that allow you to make the jump over to the States? Because you're a special alien now, right? Is that how it works?
Yes. So I'm a green card holder, and I have been for about 5 years. So I did do a soap opera. I did do a lot of things in between that soap opera, but for whatever reason, that soap opera defines anybody who is on it. Like anyone who goes on that soap opera, it just seems to come up for the rest of your life. And it's the thing that people will like Margot Robbie talks about this a lot, where she was on Neighbours, which was like an Australian soap opera. And she sits that, and she's like, the amount of times when she goes home, people are like, I loved you in Neighbours. And she's like, it's fucking Barbie. Like, this is so weird that they like, but yeah, it's anyway. So yes, a soap opera. But that was when I was 19 to when I was like 22. And then I've done quite a few things here since then, but I auditioned for Animal Control from New Zealand, via tape. And I did all these recalls on video like this, like a Zoom situation. And then I got the job, and I honestly thought I got on a plane to Canada, to Vancouver, and I was like, I could be punked. Like this could be a setup, and I could be getting trafficked. Like I'd not met a single fucking person. I could be getting sold. I mean, I'm used goods. I wouldn't sell for very much now. I'm probably past my best before.
I'd buy you Grace.
Oh, thanks, Jay. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. But I do feel like I've peaked, and I mean,
it's probably so awesome to get a network show when you're all the way in New Zealand living your life, and to be able to come over and pop right into something that's on the air. I mean, we all know this doesn't happen a lot. Like Animal Control being on the air and being a loved show is something that networks try to do every year. Wait,
really? I think
things, and very few work out.
It's a graveyard of
I think
failure,
maybe
generally.
I'm a bit oblivious to that. I think I wasn't aware of. I just assumed that kind of all American shows that they put a lot of money and resources into, or a lot of like energy into, they kind of have a formula for how it's going to play out. So I guess I didn't realize it was such an anomaly for it to be.
So what,
right?
you have a high rate of success from auditions in New Zealand?
No. Honestly, I think my audition rate, because I auditioned for the US for years before I got anything, I reckon my audition rate, I was talking about this with someone else, I think my strike rate was probably like 40 to 1. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
You don't have to audition anymore?
I do audition. I mean, I auditioned for Animal Control, in fact, for Ruffy's role.
No way.
And then I got there, and I'm like, he's way better than I would have been. I wouldn't have been that manic.
You're too cool.
I mean,
I read with a bunch of guys because I did chemistry reads with that character, and there were a lot of guys, and I remember thinking I'd read it very different. And then when Robbie got the role, I should say, that makes sense. Like he's kind of. Manic is a great word, but he's so self-deprecating, and he can throw himself out in a way that's like very effortless. Yeah, he's perfect. Not that you wouldn't have been great, but I do think you're a bit cool.
It's the wrong energy. Like Robbie's the right energy for that role, I think, because Mikhail would kind of occupy the thing that I would probably try to do, which is
yeah.
But
maybe if you had a mustache, you would have got it.
Maybe. Ravi Patel, by the way, is a super funny guy. I did a documentary called Meet the Patels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's so clever.
he's so funny, and he's such a great improviser. And I texted him before this interview to say, "Are there any funny questions I should ask Grace?" And he said, "Yeah, ask her why she thinks you asked her to be on the podcast before you asked me." And I said, "Ravi, little egomaniac," and he goes, "I'm offended." So I never got a good question from him, but there you have
That sounds like Robbie.
it.
It sounds like him. I'm so lucky. He's like I'm probably I spend most of my time with Robbie at work, and he's like a big. Oh no, don't mind you. You got
Sorry.
a call. Yeah,
Sorry,
no, that's
that's-
fine. Please take it.
Don't worry
Please,
about it.
I'd love for you to
It's
take
Robbie.
that call.
It's Robbie.
Yeah, no, I'm in the middle of a podcast. Thank you. Okay, I gotta go. Grace Palmer's the guest. Okay, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you guys done a bunch of like, Ravi talks about, when we started the show, he's like, he said, what did he say? I'm fucking toxic. He said something about like, I'm cursed. He's like, I've been in 20 pilots and I've never gone. Like Ravi felt like he had been in so many fucking pilots and had never gone anywhere. And he's like, this show's doomed because I'm in it. And
I
was like,
remember that.
great. I've come all the way from New Zealand. This is recast you if that's what's happening. But
Stay away from
is it? Yeah, it's like don't bring this on me. But do you guys have you had that experience? Have you been on a bunch of pilots that have never seen the light of day?
The best well, all
Yes.
sorts of it. The pilots that are definitely supposed to go. But my favorite story about the rug getting pulled out from under us was I was on a show. I had a very vague show business goals when I entered the business, but one of them was because I grew up on that Thursday night, what they call must-see TV. That it was Friends and Seinfeld. There was a block
Frasier.
of comedies. Frasier, which is a weird goal to have because it's like it's ethereal. It's like you want a time slot. Like, okay. But it happened, and it was a very funny show, and it was the writers from Friends and 30 Rock, and the director Andy Ackerman, who's like all-time hilarious comedy director, directed the majority of the Seinfelds, and a cast of 6 of us, and we were like feeling like rock stars, and we shot 13 episodes. And the writers came out and they told us, they pulled everyone around, and they said, "Guys, we got our time slot." 8:30 NBC Thursday night. We were like, oh my gosh, this is going to go forever. And then they aired 11 of the episodes, and the network was bought by another giant corporate conglomerate. And we all were looking for jobs the next day. But it was so quick for being
Was
like,
that Perfect Couples
It was Perfect Couples, yeah.
with Olivia Munn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to work on that show.
Dude, how did that make you feel? Like, I don't mean to sound like a therapist, but like, does it like you can laugh about it now, but at the time, is that like incredibly like that's a mind fuck for sure, right?
Yeah, but I feel like, I mean, we all get used to just these things that you think are going to work out. They don't, but then something else happens that you didn't think was going to come up. That's what I've had to get most comfortable with, I think, with a career as an actor and in show business.
I've been turned down, but for most of the things I've auditioned for, and most of the things I've attempted to get financed. Like, I've made 9 movies, right? I mean, but still, there are another bunch. I mean, mostly, I describe show business as a island of yeses and a vast ocean of no's. I mean, because it's just difficult. It's fucking difficult. But you have to be able to sort of take a punch and go, fuck it, I'm still going on. I'm going to keep going.
Do you know, I got a text yesterday. I laughed so hard. I auditioned for something and my manager was like, hey, just letting you know you didn't get that job. It went to Pamela Anderson.
Awesome.
I was
what?
Yeah, okay, I get it.
I love Pamela Anderson, but I was like,
Sure.
why did we audition for the same role? Like,
Why?
I don't think we're...
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
I'm a big Pam fan, so I'm
well,
going to watch the film now just to see her in it.
I'm a Pamela Anderson fan too. I mean, I've heard her interviews on Howard Stern, and they're rock solid. They're excellent.
Oh, did you see her
She's
documentary that she made about
so
her
I
life?
haven't seen
lovable.
that. I
So
haven't seen that.
lovable.
It was totally incredible. She was so open and sharing and talked about this wild ass ride that she had with like the whole. It was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful documentary.
The Tommy, yeah, she was so lovable, really endearing. But what about the Tommy Lee
Her
stuff,
journals.
where he would come to set? I find that nuts. That there was an era in which that was kind of possible, where someone's partner could come to set and be like, "I don't want to doing that kissing scene," and then the director's like, "Okay," and they would call it off. She wouldn't kiss her co-stars because the husband felt uncomfortable. Well, it was crazy. Like that, I was like, I can't imagine that happening. If my husband came to see it, I'd be like, go home.
Well, your husband Ra is a famous actor in New Zealand, and he came to set and he followed. He shadowed me so he can. I mean, I guess he wants to direct.
Yeah, he
which was
so grateful. He got a lot out of that. He was in awe of you.
Oh.
You just always keep your cool, which is quite amazing. You sort of have like a very cool, calm swagger.
I would have said to Tommy Lee, "Listen, pal, this is fiction. So you're gonna have to. We're all kissing her today, so you're gonna have to just." Get off the thing because come here, Pam, come here. Get out, take the fuck out of here. Respect.
Have you ever got angry? I've never seen you angry.
No,
Jay, you have gotten angry with your kids. Do you blow up in your house ever with your wife and kids and yell?
My wife, when she wants to get me, she's like, "You're a fucking D-list celebrity." She'll say that, and I'm like, "Woo!" And then the next day,
they always know how to. They just go for these kill shots.
Today, she's trying to get me to use this thing that electrifies my face, it's called like a fucking roller. I don't know. And she goes, "Come on,
I know what she's talking.
Yeah, she's like, "Use it. You're a movie star." And I'm like, "I'm a fucking movie star now." Goddamn D-list movie star. Anyway.
But when you were around your young kids, you didn't blow your top. You had to.
No, the mismatch is so great because when I'm 6'2" and they're like 2'4", and you're like you can't really. I mean, I'm too big. I don't know. I've been a very patient person, I think, but my wife can get me rolling. She can get me rolling. Nobody else can. And sometimes she's like, "You know what I should do? I should produce your films. Hey, why don't we co-write a movie?" I'm like, "Not gonna happen, babe. Not gonna happen." But I love her, and she's a babe, and super smart, and super funny too. And so, what are you gonna do? She's like you, Grace. She's like a comedian trapped in a leading woman's body. She's like funny and good looking. But back to the question.
I feel like I've never felt like a leading woman's body. I was actually just going to try find for you. I just before came across my school photo, and I was not cute. Like I was not even a little bit. Oh, here it is. I literally just ran. Can you see?
Wow. I mean, usually when people show those pictures, they're super cute. But in this case, I have to give it to you. You're right. You're not.
It's not cute at all. It's not even a little bit cute.
No.
Anyway.
But do you feel that that's why you have such a great knack for comedy? Because
I'm ugly.
I know that. No. Growing up, we try to protect. Like for me, I was deeply insecure. I was very, very skinny. I had a concave chest hole in that's the way my chest was built. So before I would never take my shirt off at the pool. I had multiple ear surgeries, so I couldn't hear. I always had bandages on my ear and stuff. So I think that just allowed me to, it wasn't like I couldn't sit back and rest on my laurels of getting attention just for being there. I had to like say some wisecrack.
Are you still concaved? What happened?
No, I mean, it came out all right. We're good. But it was just this thing, uh, body stuff that you go through. Like when you grow, like I didn't really shower in the showers until I was a sophomore because all the other guys had like, you know, uh, armpit hair and I was just a late
Right.
bloomer in a lot of ways. And I think that kind of ends up helping you later on.
I used to
That
be.
photo, I'm 14.
Okay.
That photo,
Wow.
I'm 14 years old. So like, yeah, I'm quite like I was a late bloomer. Uh, Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. And just wanting to, it's that awkward stage where girls get boobs and guys get a little bit muscly and people get underarm hair, and then you're just sitting there like pubeless and boobless and
Yeah.
being like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Sorry, Jay, I cut you off. Carry on.
No, no, no. I was in sixth, seventh grade. I was obsessed with looking at my nipples, and I would look at them down my own shirt, and I would touch them because they were like in my mind they were slightly different sizes, and they're not. But I know you want to see them. I'm not going to show them to you, but
We've already seen your ankle.
yeah, I was like, really, in my own mind, nobody knew that until someone walked up and was like, "What are you doing? Looking at your nipples again?" And I'm like, and
You're the nipple
I
kid.
never
You're the
looked
nipple
at my
looker.
nipples again in public. In private, I'm like very nipple obsessed. But no, in public, I was like, that was it. That's it. That's it. And that was the beginning of my rise as a cool person. That was the beginning, right there.
Stop looking at your nipples, and it was all uphill.
It was all good. Hey, Grace, you wrote on the show Good Grief as well as acted in it with your sister.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for it, and I didn't know she was your sister, but I heard your voice in her mouth, and I'm like,
Oh,
and
you
I,
think people think
and,
we're twins? There was a time in which we were both on TV. She was on a show and I was on a show, and people thought we were the same person. People thought that they were like we do. We're 5 years apart, but we look kind of this. We look very similar.
and
She was always the person that I wanted to make laugh. Like, it's funny that you say that, Hayes, about like growing up. I always loved making her laugh. To this day is like my favorite thing in the world, because I will say naughty, outrageous things, and she feels guilty for laughing because she's so kind and she's very like poised and demure and lovely, and like she says all the right things at the right time. She's super smart. She's just like the perfect kid, and I used to love making her laugh and then feeling bad for laughing, because like she'll be like, shut up, but it was my parents are divorced, and I have other siblings as well who I love, and they're great, but I guess Eve and I did it together, like her and I, because we have the same mum and dad, we kind of went through this divorce. It sort of felt like us against the world a little bit, and so we're very, very close, and I guess I always loved making her laugh. But yeah, we had a very specific sense of humor that we didn't think would necessarily resonate with anyone. And so we wrote this show with a friend of ours, Nick. And yeah, then it became, we had fuck all budget. Like, you would be disgusted with the budget that we worked with to make that show initially. But it had like a bit of a cult following here. And then it got picked up by AMC, and they made our second season, who have now been bought by Amazon. Is that right? Disney bought AMC, or Amazon bought AMC? Someone bought AMC, and they no longer, the people it doesn't exist in the way that it did. So yeah, but I don't know what the question was.
the question was,
But
are you
that's
a writer as well as an actor, and are you trying to still write at all? How do you like writing? Do you like writing all that?
I always loved writing. I didn't think it was like a job that I could do. And then I started writing when I wasn't acting. So in my downtime, I started writing. And I was just really lucky that the first two things that I wrote got made. Like, I know for a lot of people, that's not very normal. I got very lucky in the sense that these things actually came to life. I don't think I would be a very good hire writer. Like, I don't think if someone was like, can you write on Grey's Anatomy, whatever it is, I'd be bad at that. But I'm good at writing my own ideas, or create writing a world in which I have a Yeah, I don't know if I'd be good at writing other people ideas. I've never really tried.
Right, got it.
But
And you write your
but
own.
we
You write all sorts of like alts.
yeah, I mean it's
On
a little
animal
bit
control?
Yes, you come in with a bunch of alts.
yeah. Yeah, I've definitely as I've gotten initially I didn't have the confidence to do that. Like I felt bad for I mean, I just felt like who am I to come up with alts in this like these big American amazing writers and like this I definitely didn't have the confidence, but Joel was the one who would in rehearsals I'd sometimes say these things that I'd written, and then when it came to the take I wouldn't say it, and he'd stop everyone and go, what was that thing that you said when we were rehearsing? You should say that. And then I'd be like, okay. So he was amazing. He sort of instilled this confidence in me, and now I definitely feel more comfortable. And I think when you're living in a character you can offer offer something that the writers sometimes can't. But we're very lucky. We have great people who are super open and very receptive to input. So it's hard if you don't feel safe. Do you know what I mean? Like I've never done stand-up comedy or anything like that. Like I've never had to throw out material in a situation where people are paying to laugh and then them being like, you suck. Like I don't think I could handle that. I think the environment has to be right for me to feel confident enough to do it.
So,
well, the chemistry of working with your sister, you could just all of it comes from you guys, and you made it for nothing, and then it got picked up, and you just kept riding that. That's incredible. There's so much comedy coming out of New Zealand. I think recently, it's obviously always been there in terms of coming over to the States. I'm going to throw a name at you, and I don't know if this name is relevant anymore. He was a New Zealand humorist, like old school guy, Barry Crump.
What's a humorist? I'm sorry, I don't even know what that means.
Barry Crump was a essayist and kind of a storyteller, comedian. I think he died in like maybe in the 70s, but he was a real early comedic personality that came out of New Zealand. And the only reason I know about him, well, one, he does have some notoriety. I bet maybe like parents or people like that would know who he is. But my dad went hitchhiking when he was a kid in New Zealand, and he ended up talking to Barry Crump at a bar, not knowing who he was, that he was this famous New Zealand storyteller, satirist. And Barry Crump took my dad in for like 2 weeks. He just lived at his house.
Wait, what? I need to Google. Yeah, this is nuts. This is such a New Zealand story. Like
and he's like quintessential New Zealand. He would almost be like the Smothers Brothers for us.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, States. But I wasn't. So he was an author, more so an author. Is that right?
Yeah, he wrote like a novelist.
That's such a New Zealand story. Everyone knows everyone. Well, I think he's dead.
Everyone knows everyone, but the comedic. Oh yeah, he's long gone. But the comedic community over there. Do you guys see the guys from Chicago and the girls from Chicago? We kind of knew each other growing up, or through friends, or through improv. And then you've got the New York comics who worked at comics in the LA comics. There were these different factions, and now New Zealand has its own little voice that's come out.
Yeah. Well, so I was always kind of hired to do drama. That was always sort of what I got hired for, and I always wanted to do comedy, but our comedy world in New Zealand is quite cliquey. So it was sort of if you didn't know them or you hadn't come up with them, it was kind of hard to get in, if you know what I mean. Like I didn't feel like I was a part of that world. But then I would audition for a lot of American comedies, and then I wrote my own comedy and realized I think maybe then people sort of saw me as that. It was sort of a weird.
That had to be around the time of Flight of the Conchords, right? Was it the same time that your show?
No, I'm not that old. How do
this
you?
Is a newer,
no, I'm
Flight
joking.
Of the Conchords is probably.
No, Flight of the Conchords was quite.
I was like, how long is that?
You know what's kind of shit sometimes? New Zealand has so many great, funny, talented people. Sadly, I think a lot of the time you have to get out for the country to appreciate you, which is kind of sad, is that sometimes we're not very good at recognizing talent or ability until they do well overseas. And then people are like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, we're a little bit shit like that sometimes. But yeah, I'd say like The Flight of the Conchords. You think about Taika Waititi and all his films. That's fantastic. Very, very dry. We're probably more like the British than the Americans. And a lot of the times I think New Zealanders don't think Americans will really understand our sense of humor, or it's quite offbeat and uncomfortable. I once did an audition for Modern Family. I just arrived from New Zealand and I just got off the plane and I went and I did this audition for Modern Family. I always went in with an American accent and they never really knew that I was from New Zealand. And I did this audition with American. And then as I was leaving, I would go back into my New Zealand accent and be like, thank you for having me, ready, right? And they go, oh, you're from New Zealand. Why don't you do the audition in your New Zealand accent? And I was like, I don't think this is going to be good. And they're like, no, we'd love to hear it. I do the scene in my New Zealand accent. Fucking crickets. It was like the worst thing I've ever done. Like, it was so uncomfortable because the rhythm of something like Modern Family does not fit with a New Zealand accent because we're slow and dry and a bit uncomfortable, whereas that show has a rhythm that you have to. And I did it, and they were literally like, okay, thank you for coming in. And then I just never saw or heard from them ever again.
Well, it's a miracle. I remember when I showed up on set in Animal Control and I'm like, is she gonna, like, she's gonna just do that New Zealand accent, right? And the guy's like, yeah, that's what we decided. I said, that's so unique and so unexpected that Hollywood would let it happen. And they're like, yeah, we just said fuck it. And I'm like, I said, that's such the right decision. It's such the right decision.
But I auditioned in both. So I did 5 auditions for them, and every time I had to do both accents. So I had to do a take in both. And it wasn't until I got there and I was trying some outfits on like 2 days before we shot. And I was like, Rob, what accent am I doing? And he's like, oh, yeah, the normal one, your New Zealand one. I was like, that's amazing. Like, that, it filled me with so much joy. I mean, I enjoy doing accents, but the fact that you get, for me, like, growing up, we watched a lot of American television, a lot of British television, and never would we hear a New Zealand accent on like, that was just unheard of. So the fact that like kids in New Zealand could grow up seeing their voice on an American show is like, if it makes my heart sing a little bit, like it's nice.
I love the accent. I think it's fantastic, and I won't ask you to do the American accent.
Okay,
but if you want to hear me do the New Zealand accent, I'm going to give it a try right now.
I do. I sense it'll be a little bit offensive, but I'm really excited nonetheless.
Talk to me about the rivalry with Australia.
Okay.
Almost.
That was terrible. That was terrible. Yeah,
it started in the pocket, but then it got a little like Swedish at the end.
The best word I think is like Bob always loves is when if you say epic, like if something's epic.
Yeah.
Like you would say epic.
Yeah. Epic.
Yeah. And head, legs, bed.
Yes. Yeah, okay, got it.
The E is
different than the
piercing.
The Aussies, they do not like when you mix the two countries.
The New Zealanders don't like it either.
It's comparing you to Canadians. Like, we're not even attached. We're two very separate islands.
I know. And people do it all the time. That's why it's important that there's someone representing on American television. We could start parsing these things out.
The damn internet is convinced I'm Canadian. And by the way, I love Canada. And I'm not just saying that because the podcast goes there and I work there a lot. I just am not Canadian. And I really would like the world to know that I'm not fucking Canadian. You know, I love Canada. It's great. But anyway.
Yeah, you don't have a Canadian vibe. Your vibe is not Canadian.
Did you get there's 5 million people in New Zealand, right? Is that roughly the total population? And you, during COVID, were you over there for the COVID, the pandemic?
Yeah. Yeah, the country was sort of...
Did they shut the whole country shut down, right?
It was actually, I mean, I was a huge fan of that politician, our prime minister at the time, but it split the country. It was weird. The way the world sees us is very different probably to how we see ourselves. I thought it was amazing. We did lockdown. It was shit for, like, I think we had a month where we all kind of stayed inside, and you could only leave really to go to the grocery store, or that was it. That was pretty much it. It was the only place you could go. And it was shit for a month, but because of that, very few people died. I'd say at that, like, less than 100. Like in that period, we managed, like it was very minimal. And then we had a great kind of, then we could open our doors when we knew, and not our borders, but we opened up, and the country kind of just was thriving while everybody else was, like, obviously with a country so small, it's easy to implement something like that. New Zealanders, like Canadians, are very compliant. We'll do as we're told. And I was happy with how that went, mainly because I've since traveled, and the New Zealanders who didn't like it have zero perspective. Like, you guys probably know someone who died from COVID, right?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who died from COVID. That just wasn't, we didn't really have people around us. So we didn't have that perspective probably of the seriousness of the issue. Like, we could understand, but it wasn't happening at home. So half the country was just fucked off about the lack of business and the economy, and I understand but that came at the loss of saving millions of people, I think.
Yeah, and you don't have that many people anyway, so you kind of had to. I mean,
exactly.
It's just so unique that it's a giant island country, and they could do that. I mean,
and it's a long way away, and it's very expensive.
You were talking about how you don't appreciate New Zealanders until they leave and kind of do well overseas, right? But once they do well overseas, are you appreciated now? I mean, because I asked this because in Australia they have a thing called tall poppy syndrome, and tall poppy syndrome.
We have that much worse than Australians.
And the
to
idea
me, Australians are so confident.
Is when a poppy grows too high, you cut the head off because it's too impressed with itself. And so I think that's funny that you both have that. I mean, because it's
the opposite of American culture. Like, American culture is so good at supporting people with confidence, people doing well or hyping people up. As soon as you get a little, it's that. As soon as you get a bit big for your boots, people like to kind of bring you down a peg and go like, "Oh no, you're not all that. You're not all that. Come down here." So it can be hard because I think most New Zealanders struggle with self-confidence a little bit, or just having, like, maybe not internal self-confidence, but self-promotion, or the ability to kind of, like, if you were to compliment me, I would feel very uncomfortable talking about what I do. To this day, I feel uncomfortable identifying as like a comedic actor because I don't feel like I'm funny enough, or it's stupid. It's so stupid, and we're definitely aware of it, and it's something that we're working on, but I'd say we're pretty bad. Like, any New Zealander who does really, really well, we like to sort of go like, "Oh, well, they're all right." Like, Lord got,
it's true. It's
got
true
really
about
big.
you. Like,
oh Lord,
I whenever I compliment
Lord got really big.
Lord got really big.
Oh, sorry.
It's
and then
true.
everyone was like, "Oh, she's all right. She's fine." Like, she, like, her dancing's a bit weird, and like, I'm not really that into her music. It's like, she's fucking brilliant, and she's doing great, and it's
she's
like,
fantastic.
we're just not.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
It's a strange thing that I think we're struggling with. But I don't think I always think that Australians are quite like Americans. Like, they're very confident. I feel like we're more like the Irish or the Canadians. Like, we feel like the lesser cousin to Australians to me always seem very confident and very self-assured and like Americans.
Yeah, they do. They sure do. I mean, and the fun thing about complimenting you is you just shrink like a snail into your shell whenever I compliment you. And it's made me want to compliment you more just to get the reaction, because it's like, I mean, it's not that. It's just such a joy.
It's so bad. It's terrible. People will literally be like, I love your dress that you're wearing. And you'll be like, oh, it's a piece of shit. I got it on sale. And actually, I hate it. Do you want to have it? And then you're like, why do they do, like, what? This is wrong. Like, just take it. Just like, yeah, thanks. It makes me so uncomfortable. But yeah, it's a cultural thing, and I'm definitely working on it. I'm surprised you knew about tall poppy because I've often talked about it and people don't. Yeah, it's quite a niche sort of thing that Americans don't usually know about.
I wonder though, like we all know the story of how Australia was populated by taking all the British criminals and letting them loose in Australia. And we all in America were like, that's probably how New Zealand started too. But I was corrected by you that that's not how New Zealand started. So what do
No,
you
not at
guys?
all.
I mean, how did
Well,
how did people?
we have an indigenous culture. My family, we say whānau, which means family in Māori. So my mum is Māori, which is the indigenous people of
Yeah,
New Zealand. So it's similar to your First Nations people in America. So we had people here before the British arrived, and the British arrived and colonized in the 1840s.
I
Um,
see. So it was just a mixture of
and
the British and the Maori.
Yeah, I mean
They're right.
Australia had indigenous people too. They had their Aboriginal people, but you're right. It was a colony, like it was a colony because for criminals. Billy Connolly tells this great joke where he says he was once at immigration coming into Australia. They ask him, "Do you have a criminal record?" And he says, "I didn't realize you still needed one to get in." And it doesn't go down well. It's not a well received joke. But no, we don't have the same. We weren't criminals.
The First Nations is Canadian, and in America we call them American Indians. And then for a little while we tried to call them Native Americans, but they didn't want to be called Native Americans. They wanted to hold on to the title American Indians because they did all these surveys, and 9 out of 10 like, "It's not. No, we're good with American Indians." Meanwhile, the Indians were sitting there in the bushes waiting to pounce and grab that American Indian title. I was like, "It's available? It's available? No, not available." They didn't take it. And look, the reason they're called American Indians, I'll give you a little history lesson. I was a history major, is that Columbus promised his Spanish bosses that he could find a route to the New World. He's like, "Give me some money. I know the shortcut to the New World." He lands in like Jamaica or something like that, right? And well, these islands that are very close to America. And he goes, "I did it. I made it to India. So those must be Indians, right?" And he leaves and comes back and he goes, "Yep, that's India. I did it. I did it. Old Columbus did it." And then they kind of took some boats over to Cuba because that was pretty close. And they're like, "Well, if that's India, this must be China." For a couple of decades, that was called India, and Cuba was called China, and the people in America were called American Indians after us. So,
Right.
so there you go.
I also have been really interested to see because I love Mexico and I love the like the Aztec Mayan culture, and I didn't realize that India only has the spices because they took them from Mexico, and Italy only has tomatoes because they took them from Mexico, and same with the Spaniards. That Mexico was so verdant and rich with heaps of great like vegetation and stuff, and India didn't have those spices prior to getting them from Mexico.
Are you kidding me? How did that
No.
happen? How did they
No
get? How
spy.
did they get over there? Unlike those, unlike what? I mean, they took spices from Mexico to India, and then and
Yeah.
the climate was so good that that's how the spices grew.
Sorry. Chile. It's Chile. Chile.
Wow, I
Yeah.
did not know that. I mean, the
Do you know there's
whole
more pyramids in Mexico? You know there's more pyramids in Mexico than Egypt?
I did not know that. I've
Yeah,
seen the pyramids in Mexico.
that's one that keeps me up at night. Actually, the way that the pyramids are in Egypt, and then on the other side of the world as well, like with no relational activities between the two civilizations being documented. Just like what people just decided to build pyramids at the same time.
Wow, it's kind
You're
of deep.
asking the wrong girl.
Um, uh, is there anything you want to promote, Chris? Anything you want to talk about that you're coming up, or like is
No, I
what's
mean, you were
happening?
asking writing before. I have like 3 writing projects that I have in development at the moment, and that's sort of what's consuming my time when I'm away. And then we go back and shoot season 3. You know that we go back mid June. So we go
Oh,
back
really?
in like a
Okay.
we go back in like
You
a month.
too.
Right.
That's
Oh
awesome.
wait, when's that? No, like 6
Are we
weeks. Yeah.
are we doing the vouch?
Yeah, we
Jay?
should do the vouch.
Anything to vouch
We should
for?
do the vouch. So I can go first. So Grace, I have an app called Vouch Vault. It's basically an app where you put in the things you love most in the world: movies, television, books, restaurants, anything like that. And we just got video, so we'll kind of say. Anyway,
Wait,
so I'm gonna
you
vouch.
created an app?
I created an app with two other guys because it was a revenge play against Rotten Tomatoes. Because my movies, we work very hard on them, and then we end up with these 38% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm like, who the fuck are these reviewers? I don't know them. I don't care what they think about this thing. So I built an app to try to take them down. And the app is basically like, if you like a movie, I know who recommended it. It's Hayes MacArthur. He recommended it. Like I don't have to say, some guy in the New York Times. Who cares what the guy in the New York Times thinks? I mean, by the way, the guy in the New York Times likes Super Troopers too, so thank you. But ultimately, that was the purpose of it. It's just so all your friends and your family, whatever, they recommend books, and you can go, oh, yeah, I saw you read that book, and you can kind of talk about them, and they're all stored there. So every television show you've ever seen that you love, it's stored there. So if you want to go back and go, what was that show? It's right there.
Okay, that's great.
So I saw a movie. I went to a movie premiere that Searchlight had a couple days ago, and it's called The Greatest Hits. And it's a movie on Hulu right now. And it's about a woman. It's amazing. Because in the 90s, I used to see every single independent film there was. I just go see it all. And this movie is about it's a British actress, plays an American, and she's dating a guy who she's like, wildly in love with. He's the guy who's playing Superman in the next Superman. So he's fucking charismatic, charming, tall, good looking. And I know good looking. So, and they're really hitting it off. And then the guy dies in a pretty rough car accident. And so now this woman, the movie's called The Greatest Hits, every time she hears a song that reminds her of him, she's transported time travel wise back into the past, into scenes where she's having sex with him, where she's in the car again with him, where she's, at their first meeting, and she's constantly trying to figure out a way to have them not get in that car and do this thing. She's trying to change the future. And meanwhile, she meets another dude, some guy from Beef. And then now she's trying to deal with her old boyfriend and this new guy, and and the music is just rock solid. It's sort of like that movie High Fidelity. It's got great music, and the texture of the movie is beautiful. And it's on Hulu right now, and I would recommend it. I vouch for it.
What is it called?
That was directed by Ned Benson. I went to high school with that kid.
Yeah, Ned Benson's a great guy. Great guy. I saw him at the premiere and told him he was the bee's knees. Yeah.
Great.
What did you say
I'll
the
check
name
it
of
out.
it was?
I want to see it.
The Greatest Hits.
The Greatest Hits.
And,
okay.
And it's a love story. Like, it's a full-on love story. And I know, I like a lot of my Super Troopers fans think I'm like, a little too macho to care about love. But I'll tell you what, this old guy got a little bit of a love streak in him.
Oh.
Did you cry, Jay?
I didn't cry. I cry once a decade, Hayes.
Really?
I don't cry when things are sad. I cry when, like if I was in the movie Carlito's Way, like a couple decades ago, and somebody hit, like one of the composers hit a note on a violin, and tears just started rolling down my cheeks, and I'm like, I'm crying, and like that's when I cry. I don't know. I mean, it never happens. It just never comes out. It never comes out.
I'm going to vouch for a movie that I saw last night, and I cried multiple times during the movie. But the movie is called Civil War, which came out this weekend.
Yeah.
It's not what you think it's about.
I think
it's the only thing I'll say.
In my mind, I think it must be irresponsible to make a movie like that.
So it's it's a story. It's like a mentor-mentee story about female war photographers. It's but they're selling it like it's the country's like it's going to be Independence Day or some big Roland Emmerich movie. It's so much cooler than that.
Okay.
And I was really and I had when I first saw the trailer, however many months ago, I was very excited. And then I read reviews, and it's already being they chickened out because like in the movie, Florida and California are on the same side of the Civil War. So, but that's not even what it's about.
Yeah.
You can't even tell that they didn't have, people who look like this or from this region fighting. And it's just the idea of the country being in a civil war. And I thought it was like, you have to see it in the movie theaters. That's why I'm vouching for it now.
Is Jesse Plemons in that?
All encompassing.
That's Jesse Plemons. Yes, I know the one. Yes, that looks really good.
Yeah, and Kirsten Dunst gives it's such a cool, amazing wall-to-wall performance of this. It was really good, and I think it's good in a way that people don't think. They're going to go in there and think it's a big spectacle war movie, and they're going to get a real cool story. So I vouch for that.
Okay, good. I like Kirsten Dunst. Okay. I liked her in Bring It On.
But I think it made it
Bring It On. It's one of the all-time greats.
So.
Wait, did you actually like Bring It On, Jay?
Well, look, I was cutting the movie Club Dread, and I'm like, let's go watch a cheerleading movie. And so Kevin Heffern and I went over to the movie theater and watched this Bring It On. And it is a really super funny movie.
So good.
There are cheerleaders in it. Okay, sure. So I'm like, I'm going to go see that movie again. So I went a second time. And I'm like, still goddamn good movie. So the third time when I went, I was alone. And I'm like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't be here alone. So I never went again. But I think it's a great film. I think it's well written. I love the dancing. I love the music. I really, really just thought it was excellent.
There are three films that have sort of defined me a little bit. And one is Bring It On. The other is Mean Girls. And the last one is Bridesmaids. All female-driven comedies. But pretty much every girl you meet will be able to quote those movies back to you because they're very iconic. Okay, should I vouch for something?
Can I say one thing before you vouch? So, I'm sorry. It was just a moment, Please. Right? So, Bridesmaids. I'm friendly with Judd Apatow, and he called me. He said, "Hey, you like Kristen Wiig?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, would you read the script? I read Bridesmaids. I'm like, "Yeah, great, yeah, sure, I'll do it." So we tried to get Universal to make it in okay, we got to go right away because Saturday Night Live's coming back, and they're like, oh. And because he had 2 or 3 movies he was already producing. We did a whole read through. I met Wiig and I'm on the movie, and then they're like, "Oh, we want to make it, but maybe we'll make it next year." I'm like, okay. So it doesn't happen. The next year, Paul Feig, who ended up directing the film, had another movie called Unaccompanied Minors or something. And the movie, it didn't work financially. Feig and Apatow are real close buddies, right? So Apatow calls me, he goes, "Hey, man, Feig's movie kind of busted out. He needs a fucking rebound. Do you mind if he directs Bridesmaids instead of you?" And I'm like, I said, "Listen, man, yeah, I would look, I want to do the movie, but I'm not going to sit where I'm not welcome. And I'm not that I'm not welcome. I know you want me to do it. I know it. I know you're buddies with Feig. Fine, let him have it." And I said, but I would tell you, I really do wish I would be able to direct. And he goes, "I really appreciate the favor." And that was it. And then I watched the movie, and I'm like, man, was that good? That's a great movie. Fucking great movie. That would hurt.
Do you wish you'd fought for it more? Do you wish that you'd fought harder for it?
I don't fight for things like that because if you get into a situation like that, the person asking you knows it's hard, and he knows that it's going to be a lot to ask. And so at a certain level, you're like, well, you're asking me, how I feel about it, so let's just move on and good luck. That's all you can. What if, let's
So
say I fight for
Chris,
it? He can just go, well, I got to give it to him anyway. And then what? Then I'm like this loser who's like, please, please. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Kristen Wiig is like my shining star. I've been obsessed with her. Like 5 years ago for Christmas, my mum bought me a signed Kristen Wiig poster from like one of those like online online places, and it was like verified that it was definitely signed by her. I've watched all of her videos on YouTube, like my favorite SNL performance. She's incredible. I can't believe you got to meet her in person.
I didn't. I just saw her
Oh,
on
you
the.
said you
I was
read with.
just. I was just. Oh no! Oh, Kristen Wiig. I'm sorry. I thought you meant Kirsten Dunst. Kristen Wiig. I met her in person, yeah, and she was shy and funny and incredible, and the read through was incredible.
Oh,
I was on the phone with her talking about notes, because she wrote it with Andy Mumolo. I was knee deep in that movie. Que
um,
sera, sera.
How's the breaks?
Yeah, that's too bad.
What are you vouching for, Grace?
okay, my vouch for is a little less artistic than what you've both vouched for, but fabulous nonetheless. It is a reality TV show on Netflix. You may or may not have heard of it, and maybe I'm just super behind. It's called Alone. And okay, sometimes as an actor or just anyone who's like interested in the arts, you need a little break from these like, beautiful dramatic performances or like big blockbuster shows, films, whatever. So you go to Alone. Alone is a survivalist show. Essentially, they drop 10 survivalists in the middle of like the most remote but incredibly like intrepid places, and they have to fend for themselves. They film themselves. So they are given the camera gear and they have to film themselves surviving. And essentially, whoever lasts the longest wins. And these people are amazing. Like they're not normies. I also think that the show might be interesting if they were normies, like you or I, just going and getting dropped in the middle of nowhere. But these people know how. They've got the skills, right? So they
Yeah.
have to make their own hut, and it's got to be like a long-term hut. So they usually live in like a kind of like a shitty thing until they build this long-term hut. They have to catch their food. They have to fight like diseases, starvation, thirst. They are incredible, and it's just a very interesting show to watch. I've been through like 4 seasons back to back because I can't stop. I'm very addicted. It's also like just like a great character study. These people are very interesting people, and where they get dropped, the most recent one that I've seen, they were in the Antarctic, and so they're fighting off bears, wolves. What else have they got? They've done one in Mongolia where there's just viper, like snakes. But generally speaking, most people die from, or not die. They leave. They phone out, and it's usually starvation or just loneliness that gets to them before anything great. But there are like some of the people are just incredible. There's one guy who, I kid you not, he kills a wolverine with a machete. The wolverine is eating the food that he's caught, so he chases him down and he stabs him with a freaking machete. And I'm just like, these people are incredible, and I love the show. It's Alone. Recently,
Have you seen it, Jay?
No, but I'm
Have you seen it?
wondering
It's incredible.
what the crew must be
you've
like.
seen it.
Yeah, I love it. It's really the show. Just the way you described it is perfect. It's the best and most pure version of all of those outdoor reality shows. Because
Yeah.
I think they get to choose 10 or 12 items, a knife, a match, a tent, a tarp, whatever. And they get to see the choices that they make to go into the choices that they make to go into the region. You end up seeing how they play out, because one
Also,
person
these
might have a
people-
tool or something.
They're very like the people aren't egotistical. They're usually like very at one with the land. Like there's a guy who did really well because he'd lived in Siberia with like deer like a lot of these people have lived off the land for a long time, are very in touch. Like they're very grateful for the things they catch or kill. Like there's no bravado or kind of like macho-ness. Would you agree? Maybe there are a few that are kind of like that, but generally
Yeah, no, it's
speaking,
the most humbling. There's no crews either. They film themselves. It's the most humbling thing because they're confessionals, right? So they're required to report, right? They probably have like times where they have to film their own videos, and they just talk directly to the camera, so you hear all their thoughts as they're alone.
But there's
it's
no
really
crew.
great.
Like, how do you see him killing the
no.
Wolverine? You don't see that part.
He films
He's
it. They
got
set up cameras.
Oh, they have their own
Yeah.
hook-ons. Okay, got it.
They
Grace-
usually have a GoPro that they have to take with them
Okay.
everywhere, and then like they set up like a tripod.
I'm going to ask you a question that's going to seem like a joke, Grace, but if you had to choose a tool, would you choose like a sharpened javelin? Because you're kind of a fucking pro at it.
Did you want a full circle moment for you? Did that feel because like that's where we began the podcast there, and you're like, this is going to be great. No one's going to see this coming. It's actually quite interesting to see what weapons they pick, because some people pick a bow and then some people don't bother with the bow and arrow because again, what about the guy? There's one guy who is like they all take a flint, like a fire starter, all of them. And then one guy is like, this is the first guy in 4 seasons not to take a flint, like, or in the history of Alone hasn't bought a flint, and he thinks he can start his own fire just with takes him hours, and he's gone within a couple of days because he can't start a fire. People like that, but you should watch it anyway. Done with the vouch.
Okay.
I finished my vouch because I could talk about it for hours.
It's a great.
It's called Alone, and it's on Netflix. Okay, great. That sounds good. I'm going to promote one thing. If you have, I don't know, Hayes, you got anything to promote, or are we? No. Grace, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I am at the Spokane Comedy Club, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I got 5 shows. I'll be telling all sorts of news stories, Burt Reynolds stories, and all sorts of things. So, Grace, that was a great episode. Thanks for being our guest. I love you. I hope to see you up in Vancouver this summer shooting more animals.
Yeah, you better come back. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. You guys are great. You're so great.
Thanks, Grace.
All right.
How often do you do these podcasts?
Once a week.
Wait, you do it every week?
Yeah, once a week, and we're going to roll through that entire Animal Control cast. Because I love the show, and I think it's super funny. You're the first.
Everyone will offer something very different. Vala is the sweetest, kindest, coolest chick.
Vala's such a talent. She's so talented.
So lovely. She's getting married in Dublin in a couple of weeks. I'm going to Ireland for her wedding.
Have fun. That's fun.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you.
Mustache Tales.